It's September 2009. Welcome to Bournemouth for Liberal Democrat Conference. Well, behind me is the Highcliffe Hotel. That's the conference hotel for the Liberal Democrats during conference week, and conference started there when Nick Clegg arrived on Saturday.
Morning everybody. It's absolutely lovely to be here in Bournemouth. This glorious September sunshine. It's a really important conference for the Liberal Democrats, a crucial staging post ahead of the general election. And it's a conference which is going to be dominated by one simple question. What change? What comes next? Everybody knows that people up and down the country are crying out for change. They want something different from the Labour government, which is running out of road. So the choice before people is a choice between fake, phony change from David Cameron's Conservatives and the real change that the Liberal Democrats offer. We're in very ambitious mood. We're different to the other two old parties. We've been straight talking all along about the challenges, the big difficulties the country faces. And we offer change for real, change for good. And that will be the theme of this week's party conference for the Liberal Democrats. So thanks very much for coming, and we're now going to go, if you don't mind, and have a coffee in the sun.
Conference is a great opportunity for photo ops with some of the leading lights in the party, and two of our parliamentary candidates in the North East got their turn to be photographed with Nick Clegg. But Nick Clegg also had the opportunity to be photographed with that great play school idol, Fluella Benjamin.
All right, good stuff.
Excellent.
Now the most dynamic trio of See you later.
Was that a young vote?
Yeah. No. It's a big young vote out there. Yeah. The play school vote.
Tavish is outside.
We get actually no coverage at all for the first 3 days. When is when you're around?
Well, one of the big debates earlier this week was about national identity cards, so I put the question to Ian Swales: why do Liberal Democrats favour their abolition?
ID cards cost a fortune, and we're also seeing cuts in our police force at the moment in our area. Let me give you an example. Last week a crime was being committed in broad daylight, and no police came for 2 hours because there was no one on duty in that area. I think it's right that we cancel the ID card programme and put more police on the streets.
Well, one of the key seat candidates attending conference is Carol Woods of Durham City, and she told me the other day about her frustration about how conference is reported by the media.
I think it's a bit disappointing that the press misrepresent what he said about tuition fees, and I think they get half the soundbite and miss off the bit where Nick says that he fundamentally believes that we shouldn't have tuition fees, and then goes on to say, but of course after the next election we'll have to decide when it's going to be affordable before we decide to abolish them, should we of course, be in a position to be able to do that. And I think it's upsetting, but somebody was saying to me, well, don't worry about that, because if that's how the press, represent us, then they'll probably do similar sorts of things with both the Tory and Labour policies. So, but it is disappointing, isn't it, that the general public don't get the message that was sent, and I think that's a shame. But there you go.
Yeah. Well, you've got the big debate coming up tomorrow. Or was it tomorrow or Tuesday? Fresh Start for Britain.
Tuesday, Fresh
Tuesday.
Start for Britain.
Right.
Yeah.
It shows how
I think
well I
it's
read
Tuesday.
the. Yeah, I really clearly have been reading the directory,
Not
haven't
tomorrow.
I? Yes, it is Sunday evening. That's why you lose track of days when you come to conferences. Just all start merging into one. So, are you going to try and speak in that debate?
I haven't decided to speak in that debate. I tell you why, because I guess that quite a lot of the MPs will want to speak in that debate, so it makes it quite hard for sort of aspiring MPs to get a foot in the door. I have put in a card to speak on preserving our natural heritage.
Right.
So I'm hoping that might get called tomorrow afternoon to speak on that.
Yeah, okay. Carol, we'll catch up with you later in the week.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Well, Carers' Needs was one of the debates that was held earlier this week, and I asked Jackie Bell why she was a bit unhappy that some people were not seeming to be included in the motion.
That very much that I felt that although it was a good policy paper, that it was concentrating a lot on balancing the work-life balance for parents. So I was raising the issue of carers of adults, say, young adults with disabilities, or people who care for older parents or their spouse, who, unlike looking after a child, when a child is going to go to school and then on into adult life, but for these carers, it's an indefinite period. 6,000 people a day become carers or stop being carers, and you never know when it's going to end. And that unlike if your child is at school, that if you've been working and then your child with a disability then has left school, you might not be able to get any daycare. There's a shortage of respite, and that can be very difficult to be able to continue working. And I've known people who've had to give up work just because they couldn't get the daycare for their young people.
Westmoreland and Lonsdale MP Tim Farron was seen carrying tea, coffee and milk around with him at conference. So I asked him what it was all about, and he explained it was a protest against the supermarkets. Okay then, Tim Farron, what are you doing with a bottle of milk, coffee and tea from Tesco's?
Well, we're here to make a point. We don't want to single out Tesco's, but they are one of the big four supermarkets who are very happy to have fair trade coffee sourced from Colombia on their shelves, which is good. We're pleased to do it. But on the shelf next door, perhaps around the corner, you can get a bottle of milk from the same shop, of course, sourced from a British dairy farmer who was not the beneficiary of fair trade at all. The reality is that your average British dairy farmer makes a 15% loss on every litre of milk, and we want fair trade for farmers whether they're in Colombia or Cumbria.
Okay, Tim Farron, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Northern Night on Monday evening is a great opportunity for North East delegates to get together and have a bit of a knees up and let their hair down. But for Phil Willis from Yorkshire, it was his last conference as an MP. John Shipley introduced him at the meeting.
But I really want to hand over now to somebody who, as I said earlier, is a great deal more important than me, because you've heard from the Member of Parliament for Harrogate on previous occasions. But Phil, I just want to say to you, and it's a Yorkshireman speaking. Lancastrian. Right, well, you see. Yes, that's right. You can see what kind of evening this is going to turn out to be. But Phil, you're probably aware that up in the northern part of England, I was no loss there. Up in the northern part of England, we get local television which covers what you're doing in Harrogate and Knaresborough, and we hear a lot of it, and I just want to pay tribute. I just want to pay tribute to you. It's enormously encouraging to us to see all that you say, do, and achieve. I mean, over the years, personally, particularly impressed by all you've contributed to the education debate. I mean, many, many other things, but I think that for me, that contribution to the education debate, with the wisdom, has just been, second to none, and I really appreciated that. But more generally for the North, you've been a fantastic Member of Parliament, and not sure. not your last conference, but it is this Member of Parliament for Harrogate and Knaresborough. And Phil, thank you on behalf of everybody in this room and elsewhere in the North for all you've done. Can I hand over the microphone to you and just ask you to say a few words? You can say as many words as you wish. You come forward to the microphone, and many, many thanks to you all.
Well, thank you very much indeed. When Dorian said to me, "Can you come to this event tonight?" I said, "Of course. Would you like me to do anything?" She said, "You've got an hour and a quarter." Press the delegates on site-specific rating and all the other proposals. But first of all, can I thank you very much indeed for those very, very kind words, and they are much appreciated. I think when there are, on a serious note, when there are few of us as Liberal Democrat MPs representing the north of England, I think it is important that we're actually seen as not only simply as flag bearers, but actually demonstrate what I think Nick's been saying throughout this conference, that if we don't have the confidence to move from running the big cities of the north into translating that into members of parliament who help run the country across the north, then quite frankly we will have failed in our mission. And that is the big challenge, I think, at this conference and beyond. It isn't good enough to simply say we are the biggest party in Newcastle or York or Leeds or Hull or Bradford or all the rest of them. We have to translate that elsewhere.
With Phil Willis attending his last conference as an MP, I asked him how important he felt this gathering was for the party. It's your last conference as an MP, so how's it been for you so far?
Okay. Well, I think, oddly enough, it's been probably the most significant conference I've ever been to as a Member of Parliament. Here are the Liberal Democrats, 9 months before a general election, with one of the most credible parliamentary teams that we've seen in my 12 years in Parliament. Facing a general election where the outcome could be really quite remarkable for the Liberal Democrats. You know, ostensibly we could get the best result not since 1929, but really since 1906, because I actually think that we've gone back to our radical roots. This is a party now that people are talking about. You know, you actually go into the newsrooms, we're not talking about leadership bids, we're not talking about who's done what to whom. What we're talking about is how the Liberal Democrats would solve the most important economic crisis the country's ever had. We're talking about universities and students, which has been something I've been, you know, very, very concerned with, you know, all my professional life. And who's leading the agenda again? It's what the Liberal Democrats are saying in response to the CBI or in response to the government, you know, whilst the Tories and Labour are absolutely silent. But in terms of delegates, you know, what you actually have here in Bournemouth is a greater number of delegates than I've ever seen at a party conference. There is a buoyancy about them, there is a professionalism about them, there is a sense of optimism about them, which again is incredibly quite remarkable. You know, and I've come here with our PPC Claire Kelly, who I'm confident will not only retain Harrogate, would probably increase the majority in Harrogate, you know, and carry on that tradition. But more importantly, when you look at the northern region and you look at the northeast and you look at Yorkshire and the Humber in particular, we have the opportunity here not to simply just retain our seats, but actually to win seats all the way from Newcastle to, you know, to Hull, to Bradford, down into Sheffield and to Leeds. Whenever have we gone into a general election with that sort of buoyancy and optimism? So as I retire, if you like, from Parliament and hope obviously to be active with the party after that, what we actually have is the Liberal Democrats who, when I came in under Paddy Ashdown, had a major breakthrough, or are now on the cusp of another breakthrough, but this time it has to be realised.
Phil Willis, thank you very much. Right. Many of the delegates have travelled hundreds of miles by rail to get here to Bournemouth, but recent suggestions say that the North East may not be included in a high-speed rail network. So understandably many of the members from the North East were feeling rather let down by that. But this is an issue that Greg Stone from Newcastle wants to take up. Greg Stone, it's third day of conference and you're about to catch the train, so what's happening?
Well, today in the conference chamber we'll be debating the importance of high-speed rail and we feel that in the North East which is really a very key issue for us. We do feel the Labour government has let us down very badly on transport investments, obviously on the A1 and the road network, but also on their plans for high-speed rail. Both Labour and the Tories are looking at routes which will not include the North East, and we really are concerned that the North East will be economically disadvantaged again if we don't get investment in a system which has both the west coastline and the east coastline. And we're making the case that there should be a high-speed rail network linking up all the UK and making Newcastle and the east coast routes very much a part of that. So we want to see real investment here. We're on a rather slow train here today at Bournemouth, but we want to be a fast train for the future for the North East.
What benefit is there to a key seat candidate in coming to conference? Well, that was a question I put to Newcastle North's Ron Beadle. Okay, Ron Beadle, you've been at conference for 4 days now. Constituency's 300, 400 miles up the road, but your being here has benefited your campaign in Newcastle. How?
In a number of ways, Jonathan. I mean, firstly, one of the problems for a busy parliamentary candidate is that you're so busy campaigning that sometimes you need to gen up a little bit on policy. This is a good opportunity to do that. Secondly, we have first-rate training here and we listen and talk to each other. So you both pick up ideas and you share ideas, problems that you've had, things that have gone well, and so on. Thirdly, a lot of camaraderie. There's a really good spirit about the party. It's a conference that really matters because we're in the run-up to a general election. So it's been great seeing people. I've actually caught up on a little bit of sleep, and it's been a very, very good, positive conference. Some arguments, but that's always the way in a conference, but overall very positive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan.
One of the proposals to come out this week from Vince Cable is that regional development agencies should be abolished. And that's not met with entirely universal support in the North East. So I asked Durham City's Nigel Martin exactly why he was unhappy with that proposal. Okay, Nigel, there seemed to be an element of criticism in what you were saying a moment ago at the Fringe meeting here about the party's position on regional development agencies.
I'm taking the view that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I understand the frustration that some parties, probably a lot of parties have with the regional government structure in the southeast of England, for instance, where you've got a massive number of local authorities and everything's very diverse and fragmented. In the northeast it isn't, especially with local government reorganisation. We've now got 12 councils working together where they can, and we've got a much more focused operation in the northeast now. The RDA One North East is locally accountable in a really clear way, probably better than it ever has been. If the RDAs are all got rid of, including One North East, where is the investment going to be held? Who's going to be in charge? Is it going to really come back to local government? Is that just going to fragment it again? Or is it going to be held, as I believe, back in Westminster? No, let's keep it in the North East. We're in charge of our own destiny at the moment, and I think if we lose One North East in the next couple of years, it puts the whole project at risk.
Nigel Martin, thank you very much. If you want to raise money to get elected to Parliament, forget about the big corporate donations. What you need is chocolate. MP Bob Russell explains.
Well, as we all know, there's the credit crunches on, and I thought that nice little fundraiser if we could make it. And the alliteration of Craig and Cable's Credit Crunch chocolate, that's a mouthful. And it's basically that's what it says on the wrapper. It's a bar of chocolate. Here we are at the 2009 Autumn Conference in Bournemouth. The two top people in the party, the House of Commons and the Deputy Leader. Vince Cable, of course, is now said to be Britain's most popular politician in any party, and he and Nick Clegg are doing a grand job for the Democrats. In Colchester, I need to raise money for my hopeful re-election whenever the general election comes. what better way to celebrate the conference and to have a souvenir? So that's what it's all about, but I do need to sell them. And here we are, only £1 a bar, or 6 for a fiver, and I am open to offers from constituency chairman and candidates for bulk purchases to give out to their supporters, their activists, the workers, the people for whom, without whom they would not be elected. So this is a nice little sweetener.
Everybody who comes to conference is encouraged to go to the exhibition area, and Nick Clegg was one of those who paid a visit as well.
There you go, right, hang on. How many? 3 kids. 3 kids.
Well, it's lunchtime on the last day of conference, and this afternoon conference finishes with the leader's speech.
In the last 8 weeks, 28 British soldiers and Royal Marines have been killed in Afghanistan. Now, however easy it may be to forget, we are a nation at the illegal invasion of Iraq. And ours is the party of Vince-Cable, the first to see problems brewing in our economy, the first with a vision of how to take us to recovery. The choice of the next election is fake change from the Conservatives or real change from the Liberal Democrats. And at a time like this, a time of real crisis, Britain cannot afford to be taken in by David Cameron's illusion of change. Britain needs leadership from a party with real passion, and it's the Liberal Democrats. There is hope for a different future, a different way of doing things in Britain, if we are brave enough to make a fresh start. So let today be the day, the first day of the future of British politics. It may be only the beginning, but it is the beginning. The beginning of real change in Britain. If you want things to be different, really different, choose the party that is different. Choose the Liberal Democrats. Thank you.
Well, the conference is now over. In fact, they're packing away behind us. We've had Nick just finish his speech, so do you feel motivated, inspired, determined to go back and win, or all of the above?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I mean, Nick's speech was really, really good. I mean, I think it just set exactly the right tone, and it's what Britain needs. You know, we need to win because we need to make this country fairer, and we need to change things.
Carol, thank you very much, and good luck in Durham.
Thanks a lot.
I've been coming to the conference for 10 years. I've heard a lot of party leader speeches. Today was a prospective Prime Minister's speech. It was fantastic. I think sending that message out there to the electorate who are desperate for real change at the next election, I think they will come to the Liberal Democrats in record numbers. I think that on all the big issues, Nick has set out how the Liberal Democrats can achieve change for young people, on jobs, on the economy, on the environment, on Britain's role internationally, on all those things. The Liberal Democrat message came out loud and clear, and I think that people will vote for that in big, big numbers. I'm really enthused to go away and win and put that vision into power in this country.
And what do you reckon was there for Newcastle and the North East generally?
I think that just talking about all those generalities, all the things that people tell us on the doorsteps in Newcastle that matter, on what's happening, then the crisis on youth unemployment, on what's happening to people, the fear of people's jobs and their mortgages, on the recession, on the need to have a more sustainable vision for this country, how we deal with the environment, on all those issues, is a Lib Dem message there that's going to be, I think, something that people will really, really respond to come the election time.
Okay, Greg, good luck in Newcastle.
Thank you very much.